Hey everybody, it's Monday night and it's time for Talk More Talk, a solo Beatles videocast. On tonight's show, we are very happy to talk about the McCartney 321 special that premiered on Hulu a couple weeks ago, July 16th to be exact. And man, we had a fun time watching it and we can't wait to talk about it with you guys, and we can't wait to hear your feedback. But before we get to that, I'm going to introduce myself and my besties over here, my cohorts. I can't wait to get their thoughts on this show as well. So I'm Tom Hunyadi. You may know me from my other show, Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast with my co-host Annie Nichols. We talk everything McCartney on that show, and we have a lot of fun doing it. With me, as always, I have my three besties again. Like I said, we got the Queen. You know, she's the queen of everything. Now she's become the queen of background, the background images. And it's just great because I really loved best part, of that show is those two at the console. But and I love so perfect job. And we all know the Queen as the author of the songs they were singing, the guided tours to lesser known Beatle tracks, and the Michael Jackson FAQ. And do you have the newer one right by you?
I don't think I have it right by me, but it's Fandom in the Beatles.
Fandom in the Beatles. That's
yes,
right.
indeed. Yep, co-edited with our buddy Ken Womack.
Thank you, Ken.
There
you go.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
You always have my back.
I forgot to grab it.
It's always.
Yeah, I forgot.
It's always by my side.
Yeah.
He sleeps with it under his pillow.
Who told you?
Okay, that's creepy, but that's okay.
And it's so great to have you here, Kit, once again. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I always look forward to Monday nights with my BFFs.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. Next up, we have our YouTuber, Mr. Joe Mayo, who just surpassed 11,000 subs on his channel. What an amazing feat! Congratulations on that, Joe.
Oh, thank you.
Again, he's pushing he's got his Mayo's Mayo's movies, Mayo's Marquise. One week.
Just change it to Mayo's Marquee. Why isn't my green outline lighting up? By the way,
I don't know.
No, but
am I being heard?
Yes, you're being heard. Yeah, we hear you. We see you.
We hear you.
Okay. But please, if you haven't checked it out, check out Mean Mr. Mayo on YouTube. He's got wonderful content. Whether they're rants or they're reviews, unboxings, a lot of great stuff.
Fab Gab.
There you go. And Fab Gab. There you go. So, which we've all been on. So, Joe, it's great to see you, buddy. How you doing?
Thank you, Tom. Hello, Kit. Hello, Ken.
Hey, Joe.
And lastly, we've got the one and only Ken Michaels here. You know him from his wonderful shows. He's got a brand new YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio, where he's interviewing some amazing people in the podcasting world, the entertainment world, the music world, people who worked with Beatles and solo Beatles. And he just had a wonderful one. He was going to promote it later, but I was really happy with your Alan White interview. I thought it was really good. So on for that. So we also know him from Things We Said Today, the great Beatles podcast with Darren DeVivo and Alan Kozin, and his radio show, Every Little Thing, which, again, he plays every little thing on there. So, Ken, welcome to the show. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Tom, Kit, Joe. Thrilled to be talking about the new documentary and talking to all of you watching.
Right. Right on. So before we get to the show, we are going to have Ken tell us all the latest and greatest news. So Ken, as they say, take it away.
Want to hear me play?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you never know who might be listening to you.
That's true.
Right.
We'll start with a brand new video premiering last Thursday from Paul McCartney featuring Beck of the new version of his song Find My Way from the McCartney III Imagined album. It features a young McCartney circa 1965 dancing his way through the video, which was co-produced by Hyperreal Digital, a company that specializes in the creation of hyper-realistic digital avatars. The company's CEO, Remington Scott, says the technology to de-age talent and have them perform in creative environments like this is now fully realized, even with one of the most recognized faces in the world. I really enjoyed this video, and there's a surprise ending. I don't know if we should tell anyone what it is, but I've seen.
Leave the ending. They say the whole thing about don't tell your friends a surprise ending. Keep the ending a surprise. We should like.
Spoiler alert.
Right.
Very good, Joe.
Yeah, it's just like a play that I saw called Murder Strikes Out. He said, keep it a surprise.
Keep it a
The
surprise.
wheels are turning all the time with him. That's a honeymooners reference there. But yeah, what did you guys think of it? Some people have said it's kind of creepy. Other people think that it's clever.
Well, the whole de-aging technology is a little creepy at first. One of my favorite movies of the last couple years, called The Irishman, used that technology for De Niro, Pesci, and Pacino in that movie. And yeah, it took a little while to get used to, but after a while, it's no big deal. But yeah, it was very entertaining. I liked all him going through all the halls and whatnot. I liked the little cameo. I won't say who the cameo was from, but and plus, if you like what Beck did to that song, I think you'll enjoy the video as well.
I enjoy his arrangement of it. I like what he did with it. I don't like it as much as Paul's, but I still like it.
Right.
But yeah.
I thought it was a pretty interesting video, clever, like you said. I enjoyed the video. I'm not a big fan of any of the material so far that I've heard off McCartney III Imagined. Really, I haven't heard the whole thing, only half of it. But I wasn't that wild about the Beck version of Find My Way. But sometimes with a video, when you watch a video, it can turn it around for you a little bit. So I kind of found myself having a good time with it through the video added to it. So I really thought it was interesting, and it is creepy to me too, while clever and fun, because I did enjoy the video, but I start thinking, wow, it gets to the point sometimes where you're gonna, he's faking everything, and if they get it too good, we're not gonna know what's real and what's not anymore.
Right. So you found your way, to say of sorts.
Yes. Yeah.
There were times when I was questioning whether or not that really was Paul with a ton of makeup on and putting on a wig, or dyeing his hair or something. But yeah. Kit, what did you think?
Well, I mean, I've always liked, this is like one of the tracks off of 3 Imagine that I like. I mean, I liked Beck's remix of it. I mean, I'm a Beck fan, so I mean, I wish they had done a real collaboration. I'd love to hear them do it.
Me too.
Yeah, as far as the video goes, when I did a little sneak preview video this afternoon for our show tonight, so those who watch this will already know my opinion. I'm a little bit in the creepy camp.
Creepy camp.
Yeah. Deep faking, it just is a really kind of a little bit of a scary technology to me. It's it really, I mean, I understand this was just done for fun. I know that. But it also, as has been shown, I mean, it has the potential to really, it can be done for really bad things as well. And as far as this goes, I mean, it was a little creepy to me at times. There were also times where I thought it wasn't that great. I mean, there were times where it really did look like him, and then there were other times when they zoomed in and out where I thought, ooh. I mean, like, it kind of looked like him, and then the eyes, the mouth. I mean, it just didn't quite. It's. I don't know. I mean, this kind of technology, it's kind of like how I feel with holograms and that kind of thing. I just don't love playing around with de-aging or worse. I mean, that isn't the case here, but bringing back the dead and that kind of thing. I'm not crazy about it. But
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, in this case, I mean, it was fun. This was all done in good fun. I know that, and as you said, the cameo was cute. And some of the effects, and it was meant to be kind of trippy like the song, and I get that. But I just wasn't insane about it. But I get it. They're trying to build buzz for this physical release. They're trying to, and they've done it. I mean, there is plenty of buzz about it.
Right. De Niro, when De Niro was doing publicity for the Irishman movie, and he was talking about the technology, he was joking around, yeah, this just extended my career another 30 years.
Yeah, and where does it end? Exactly. I don't know.
Yeah, and there was something floating around, I think the same thing with Tom Cruise, Did you ever see that footage of Tom Cruise doing something? That's the first I'd heard of it, and it looked like
Mm,
it was Tom Cruise. I mean, not in a movie, but like a private movie, home movie of him. And I'm like,
mm,
did he really do that? Whatever it was. And I'm like, no, that's not
mm,
Tom Cruise. Not
no,
quite him. It's him, but
right.
Yeah.
it's not him. And it could be used for bad things too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
I've seen what you're talking about, Joe, but I can't place it where
Yeah, I
exactly.
can't remember what he was
Yeah,
eating a
Mm,
banana or doing fruit or
yeah.
something. I thought, I don't know. I can't remember it, but that's all right. It was, and if it looks a little creepy, then it's not 100% real. You have that, but when they get it
right.
100%
True.
real, you might have Kid O'Toole, like, I don't know, doing a tango or something with Tom, and they say we weren't there. I swear we weren't there. I say, well, here's the film right here.
Right.
I
It's
know for a fact they have done the tango together. You're not fooling anyone.
you'll
Or
never
the
find the
Hucklebuck.
Oh,
tape.
they'll never know.
You'll never find the tape.
But one thing about McCartney III Imagine, and I was only thinking about this recently because I know one of my Facebook friends told me, he's not thrilled with what Paul's doing here. And to me, it reminds me very much of what Yoko has done in
Mm,
recent years with her recordings. She gives the multi-tracks of her recordings to a lot of newer cutting edge artists, and they can play around with it any which way they want to. They can
Yeah.
right.
use her vocals, they could use her backing tracks,
Yep.
they can do an entirely new cover version on their own. And that's exactly what this is.
Yep.
Sometimes they're using Paul's backing tracks, or certainly in this case, Paul's vocals. And you never know, some of Beck's fans might
Right.
like this version more than Paul's version. So, or
Yep.
younger fans might like this
Yeah.
version better.
And
So,
the piggyback on that, Ken, a couple other people now are doing this with album, like Brittany Howard, the ex singer from Alabama Shake. She put out a
mm,
solo record last year. She
Yeah.
just did one where it was, she had a bunch of people, cover songs from that album. And then now Metallica is doing the same thing with their 1992 self-titled album that's coming out next month. So,
that's good.
it looks like
It's
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 becoming a pretty popular thing.
Yeah.
it's another way of reaching a younger audience,
Mm,
Sure.
which is always important.
Yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
Okay, in other news, as it has been for the last several years, John Lennon's iconic song Imagine kicked off the Summer Olympics, this time with an arrangement from Hans Zimmer, led by a youth choir. And also joining in were singers John Legend and Keith Urban, to name a few. Last week, two major releases came out. The book All Things Must Pass Away, Harrison Clapton
Mm,
and Assorted Love Songs by Ken Womack and Jason Krupa. And as we just mentioned, McCartney III Imagine, released in physical format on vinyl, CD, and cassette. There
I
you
was gonna
go.
say,
There's
but
one of them.
wait, we have a show and tell.
So thanks to Tom here, I have a list for those of you who are
mm,
collectors, all the different colored vinyl there is. Target has put out a silver one, Barnes and Noble, a blue one. There's an indie exclusive that's for record stores
right.
of a gold one.
Yep.
PaulMcCartney.com has a green, purple, and the one that Tom just showed,
This
the
splatter.
splatter one. And there's also, as I said, it's being released on cassette. There is a black and pink cassette for McCartney III
Mm,
Imagined. Now, the vinyl and CD version, not sure about the cassette, has a bonus track with Idris Elba's version of Long Tailed Winterbird. This is really an interesting take on the song, which is for the most part an instrumental on Paul's recording. Idris's version has words, he
mm-hmm.
kind of sings it and raps through it. It's very different from Paul's version,
Right.
radically different, to the point where you might think nothing like it.
Did
Exactly.
I hear rap?
Uh-oh.
A few more things. A brand new book has just come out on the life of the late guitarist Jimmy McCulloch called Little Wing, the Jimmy McCulloch story from Paul Sally. It takes you through all the bands he was in before Wings and has his complete story. It's available now on Amazon, both as a paper. There you go.
Here you go, Tom, show and tell.
At a moment's notice, it's on paperback and also on hardcover. Also, I've heard that John Borak's book, The Beatles 100, 100 Pivotal Moments in Beatle History, has just been released. John is a journalist who's written for many publications, including Goldmine Magazine. He's authored the books Shake Some Action, The Ultimate Power Pop Guide, Shake Some Action 2.0, a guide to the 200 greatest power pop albums from 1970 to 2017, and also the book John Lennon, Life is What Happens, and that was in 2010.
Mm.
A reminder that Peter Asher is touring. He's touring in July and August with guitar great Albert Lee, Kate Taylor, who's the sister of James Taylor, and the bass guitar great Leland Sklar. Steve Holley from Wings is actually in the backup band. I
Wow.
just caught their show last Saturday here in Connecticut. Tremendous show, great variety, you know, amazing talent. All these people appearing on stage together.
Hmm.
Boy, I haven't seen Albert Lee that much, but what a great guitarist he is.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of years with the Everly Brothers. Um, since then, I have learned of a new show announced for September 18th at the FM Kirby Center in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which is part of a 60s spectacular. And Peter Asher will be there performing that show with Jeremy Clyde
Oh,
of
wow.
Chad and Jeremy. And they have toured together before. Also on the bill will be the Yardbirds and Big Brother and the Holding Company. They are expecting to add more dates for that tour. By the way, Kate Taylor has a brand new album out, which is called Why Wait, in which she covers Good Day Sunshine on it. And Peter Asher produced the album.
Mm.
You can look for a list of Peter's concert dates at his website at peterandgordonthesingles.com.
He's still pretty active. I'm really surprised by that.
Yeah.
Producing and touring still, that's
Yeah.
great.
And he's got his radio show on Sirius
Hmm.
XM on the Beatles
Right.
channel. So yeah, he really impresses me, and
Mm.
he keeps up to date with a lot of today's music and tries to listen for new artists that he finds are interesting.
Mm.
So he's not a guy that's just living in the past.
Mm.
So you know, very talented guy. If you can see this show, I highly recommend it. You will love it. Peter and Gordon songs, new stuff from Kate Taylor, Albert Lee, some of the songs he's played on from the Everly Brothers, Emmylou Harris, people like that. And you get to see Steve Howley too.
Cool.
And Leland Sklar, who's
Mm.
been on so many albums, and James Taylor albums. In fact, they are playing in Cape Cod. And the last show is rumored to have a lot of James Taylor's musicians joining the band.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, that's listed on Peter's website. Today is the release date for a brand new documentary called Under the Volcano about the history of George Martin's Air Studios.
Mm.
That was in Montserrat in the Caribbean. Being billed as the greatest music studio of the 80s, artists such as Paul McCartney, Jimmy Buffett, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, Earth, Wind and Fire, Dire Straits, The Police, The Rolling Stones, Duran Duran, and Black Sabbath, all
Mm.
recorded there. There will be interviews with The Police, Mark Knopfler, Nick Rhodes, Midge Ure, and others, and I've been told Paul appears in there briefly.
Mm.
Air Studios was destroyed by Hurricane Hugo. That was in 1989, and also from volcano eruptions. It's been released on DVD, Blu-ray, and
Oh,
digitally.
Oh,
great.
By the
Under
way,
the
I couldn't
volcano.
remember. Yeah,
check that
that
out.
last show with Peter Asher is at Martha's Vineyard. I forgot to mention that. Okay.
Mm.
Just a few more things on the podcast show. I know, hosted by
Yes.
Hudson Randy.
Who's
He
watching
encour-
right now? He commented.
Hi,
Hey,
Hudson. Boy, all the publicity you get from us.
Yeah.
We need a little of this,
Yeah.
He recently had Gary Burr on as a guest, and he co-hosted that show with Lucas Tanner, who hosts a Ringo podcast called Ringo Rama. And Gary Burr said that he plans on writing a song with Ringo for his upcoming EP
Mm.
due out later this year. With special thanks to one of my listeners on the Things We Said Today podcast, Jody Newell. He told me that Apple Music has been promoting their new, what they call spatial music, featuring, spatial music, which is also known as Dolby Atmos. And they are offering you the Beatles album Sgt. Pepper and Abbey Road to be heard that way. That's only through Apple Music as far as I know so far. And finally, the Weaklings are back, and they are going to have a brand new live album, which is due out September 17th on Gem Records. It's called In Their Own Right, very cleverly after
Right.
John Lennon's book.
Yep.
And this live album will have mainly originals plus covers of the Beatles' The Word and Baby You're a Rich Man. A pre-sale for the album is on their website at weaklings.com, WEEKLINGS.com. Advance orders will ship out on September the 1st. And if you order in advance, you'll also get the bonus track Mona Lisa. Okay. Again, that's the Weaklings In Their Own Right, new live album due out September the 17th. And that is all
Wow.
I want to say.
Wow. That's amazing.
Hmm.
Okay, well, we all know that last Friday was the release date for the physical edition of McCartney III and Reimagined, or Imagined, I should say, and finally got one in the mail. I know Joe's waiting on getting the splatter in the mail, so I figured maybe we'll just show the splatter one here real quick. I know this copy sold out pretty quickly, and I was really kind of disappointed that McCartney III proper didn't get a splatter, because they did all solid for the most part, but the photos, again, they're all different, like all the other gatefolds from McCartney III. So some new pictures in there, which is really cool. And I gotta tell you, I mean, this isn't like a traditional kind of splatter, but it's an interesting splatter. It's kind of like a tie-dye type splatter.
Ooh,
Wow.
So yeah, so not bad.
interesting.
And both of them have different colors to them. So that was like a purple and yellowish, and the other one here is kind of blue, green, and orange.
Oh, wow.
So this one is actually a little bit more splatter on there, which is some cool. So but yeah, it's really cool. I really enjoyed it. I played the first song on it and thought it sounded good, and hopefully you'll get to play the rest of it real soon.
That's
So
interesting that it's a double album. They put it on
well,
two records. They didn't
they
do
pretty
that with
much had
McCartney
to.
3.
No, we didn't
How
have to,
many?
but because deep feeling is over 10 minutes long, so that's why.
How long is Paul's? Around 8?
Yeah. So the fact that that's over 10 minutes long, they ended up having to put it on two records. So, but yeah, so pretty happy with it. Listened to it in the car the other day, and I thought it was really interesting. I enjoyed the beats to a lot of the remixes. I wish they would have. The people that did the song, that remixed the songs, I wish they would have used their vocals on it rather than using Paul's vocals on it. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I know we talked about the Find My Way, but other than that, I think it's.
You had a record player in your car? I didn't know that.
Did I say record? I thought I said.
No,
CD.
you just said you played it in
Yeah.
the car.
Okay. Yeah.
You have the CD also, correct?
Yeah, I have the CD as well. Yeah. So not not as many as the regular.
And the what is the other one? The gold one you have, right?
Yeah. Do you want to see the gold one real quick?
Folks, I'm giving you my word. It's just the splatter on my. I promise this time.
I know. I was at the record store and I saw it, and I was just like, the light really doesn't do it that much justice. The lighting I have right now, but the poster, I mean, the picture I posted on Instagram was a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear it calling Tom.
Yeah, it did. It called me, and I wasn't too happy about it.
Susan Gagney said she's still waiting for hers in the mail too.
As usual.
Splatter.
Same with me. Yeah,
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, but
I'm
anyways,
just waiting for the CD.
See,
regular CD.
I hear you. But anyways, let's get to the main topic, which is McCartney 321, a brand new series that we learned about it way back in December. I think we first caught a glimpse of Paul and Rick Rubin in a black and white photo. It was pretty much dark, so we didn't really know what was going on. They were standing in front of a console. Now, Kit, I'm gonna start with you because, yeah, that was probably the photo right there, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start with you because not a few, but maybe a year or two ago, we did a show about who we would like to see Paul work with, and you had said Rick Rubin. So I would imagine that when you saw that picture, you were pretty ecstatic, right?
Absolutely, and everybody, can of course thank me for this whole project happening. You're welcome. You're
Right.
welcome. No, I really was of course thrilled to see it, because I'm a Rick Rubin fan. I really love his productions. I wish he and Paul would do an album together. So
You never
I
know.
was. Yeah, and you never know who knows. So I indeed, I was really excited. I like his, kind of stripped down production style, plus his ability to work with all different kinds of artists. I mean, he
Right.
starts out in
Different
hip hop and
genres.
yeah, in different genres.
Yeah.
So, when I heard he was going to do this, I thought, oh boy, here's somebody who, really knows his music clearly,
Right.
interviewing Paul. So, this is going to be great.
Right. So then now when we flash forward a couple months later, when we learned what this series was going to be, what were your expectations?
Well, I mean, I thought, this was going to be, here's somebody, as I said, who really knows his music. I wasn't sure how hardcore a Beatles fan and
Right.
Paul McCartney fan he was, but I thought, okay, this is somebody who is really going to sit down. This is someone, musician to musician, producer to musician. This is going to be a really, in-depth conversation.
Okay. Ken, what were your initial impressions when when we first discovered what this was going to be before you watched it?
I thought first when I first watched it, I was surprised at how much I really loved it. Because, as you know, I want Paul's entire career covered.
Right.
I don't just want his Beatle period covered. And this was very Beatle heavy for me. Too Beatle heavy, as a matter of fact. But let's face it, those recordings they made are so amazing and so fascinating. And I think just listening to the multi-tracks made it so special for
Right.
me. But it still is disappointing in the sense that, there's very few solo songs that are picked. There's about 5 of them,
Right.
and none of them go past 1980.
Right.
And you've got another 40 years there. Not that I expect every album to be covered, but to, pick one song from each decade, something more representative of his entire career is more what I wanted. But still, because the music is so terrific and there's so much to learn, and every now and then there'll be a tidbit of information that I hadn't heard before that made it all the more worthwhile.
Right.
There's a lot of reasons to love this whole series. And if anything, I only wish that they do more of them, because this clearly is not enough.
Right. Oh, it's not. Definitely not.
yeah,
Not. I mean, I think we heard somewhere there was 15 hours recorded.
Yeah, I was going to
for
mention that.
this.
Yeah.
So, Joe, what was your initial thoughts about this special when
Now,
we
do you
learned
mean going in, or
No, yeah, going in. Before you watched it, what were your initial
Yeah.
thoughts? I mean, what were your
well,
expectations?
yeah. At first, I think, like Andy Nichols, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't know Rick Rubin. I might have heard the name, but I didn't make a connection, and I didn't know how much of a Beatle fan he was or not. But I heard he was from people, and I heard that he was a good man to do this.
Right.
I started to have a little more confidence because, like a lot of people, I think a lot of fans, I thought right away, oh, when you've heard as much as I have, or we have, from Paul, probably going to be the same questions over, and that's over and over, and the same topics, which is the same songs discussed for different examples of
Right.
writing with John or whatever. And I thought, oh, I hope there's some new material in there. And the vibe that I had gotten was that it was going to be more in depth. So I thought, okay, but I really, as the time came to see it, I wasn't that excited about it, to tell you the truth. I was like, it was more like a job, or as a fan, my job to watch it. I've seen so many things with Paul, but because I didn't count on it being that revealing or anything. So I said, just another one. And when I ultimately did see it, which we'll get to, I'm glad I saw it. Very glad.
Right.
It was fun.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I kind of felt the same way, when we learned that it was going to be, about his career, and you really can't call it a career spanning show because, like Ken Michael said, it was really only up to 80, so that wouldn't be really a fair statement. But I had a feeling it was going to be Beatle heavy. I had a feeling we were going to get, a lot of the same stories, unfortunately. But then, when we got to actually watch it, yeah, we got that, but it was a different feeling hearing these stories in a different light, So we'll get to that in a moment. But Kit, I mean, did it meet your expectations? Were you happy with with what you saw initially? And what were while you were watching it? Tell me how you were reacting to the show.
Well, I mean, I had to keep reminding myself that this was for a more general audience. I think in a way, I think my expectations were a little too high because, I thought, I think I went into it thinking this was going to be nerdier than it was. I mean, I think because this was Rick Rubin, I thought this is going to get really technical and but and it wasn't quite as much as I expected. But but then I thought when I read comments online, and it's people were responding to it, and there were people who responded and said, "Wow, I never knew that yesterday story." And part of me, and part of me thought, "Oh God," But then I'm like, well, but this is Hulu. I mean, this is they're appealing to a wide audience,
Right?
So they have to appeal to more casual fans as well. So maybe they were told you can't get too technical. So part of me kept wanting to say to Rick, I kept thinking, why didn't you ask this? I mean, I like if I were there, I would be like, I would have asked XYZ. I mean, the probably the most frustrating moment was when they were playing Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the song. And they're playing, the opening lines. And there's Paul, I mean, singing, you hear that incredible rock vocal. I mean, one of the best rock vocals ever recorded. And, Rick standing next to him. There's Paul standing right next to him. They're at the, at the soundboard, and they never comment on it. And I just thought, and I mean, I just wanted to throw something at the TV. I'm like, you're kidding me. You didn't say to him, Paul, how did you record that vocal? Did you, how did you warm up to that? That was one of the best rock vocals ever put on tape. How did you do it? I mean, that's what I would have asked. And so there were moments like that were a bit frustrating for me. On the other hand, those moments at the soundboard, were magical. I mean, I wanted more of that, that was, there were just so many wonderful moments where they'd isolate stuff. I mean, that was the nerdy stuff. And I love that. And seeing Paul react to that was wonderful too. I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute, but that was a wonderful moment too. So seeing them do all that, I really enjoyed that quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, their excitement level, their enthusiasm was infectious to me. I mean, I just found myself really engaged in the conversation between the two, and I just was like, had my ear up to the tilt because I was just like waiting to hear some kind of newer information like Ken was looking for, what I mean. So and we we got a little bit of that, but like you said, Kid, I mean, I guess for us we had to realize that this was going to be more for the casual fan, and just maybe like 10% of it was for hardcore fans, So we got a little bit of love, but not too much. But
more like 7%. I would
7%. Okay. Ken, what about you? I mean, as you're watching the show, I mean, is it meeting your expectations? Were you finding yourself, very engaged in this, or are you just thinking to yourself, it's just a normal interview?
I was very engaged in the whole thing. And it's just easy to do that because you're dealing with such wonderful music. And when you hear things isolated and you never heard it this way before,
Right.
And, let's face it, so much of this stuff you could have heard in Rock Band, or you could have heard online on YouTube with isolated tracks. And every now and then I go to YouTube and I listen to this stuff and I'm fascinated
Right.
by it. And sometimes I just can't get enough of it. But it's Paul talking about it with Rick Rubin at the same time. The thing about Rick Rubin is that I was really excited to hear that he was the one who's going to be interviewing him, because he takes with him the ears of a producer and of an artist. So how his mind works and what he hears in his head may be different from what a fan would think, or even a journalist would think.
Right.
But at the same time, there are times when it's very obvious when he doesn't know Paul's history that well. I
No,
mean,
it didn't look like it.
you mentioned Sergeant Pepper. He asked him the question as to whether or not Sergeant Pepper and With Little Help from My Friends were conceived together. There's some things that, to a knowledgeable Beatle fan is pretty obvious,
Right.
but some things he didn't know. And when that would happen, it would be like, you didn't know that? So, but at the same time, I like when he brought out certain things like, what was it? Obla di Obla da. I got to tell you, throughout my whole life, up until there was one point when someone said to me, that's reggae, right? I never thought of it as reggae, most of my childhood growing up or anything. But, and Rick Rubin said, well, there's reggae and then there's the Beatles' own version of reggae, because they do it in a different way. And he says, yeah, you're right about that. So just the fact that he has those kind of ears to bring that out. And what he said about Maxwell Silverhammer in particular, and combining a traditional type, old-fashioned song like that, and then having a Moog synthesizer, a Moog actually pronounced, a new instrument with an old style song, and that's how his mind works. And I found that interesting. That's the mind of a producer, of an artist, what he thinks, which may not be what we think. So
Gotcha. Cool. Joe, before we get into, other questions and our personal favorites, did this meet your expectations as you were watching it? Were you
For expectations, yeah, well, it's pretty much what I expected. When I started expecting, well, it's gonna be a lot of the same old, with maybe some new stuff. But it certainly was a lot of fun watching the two of them interacting together. Paul got into some songs more than others, which I think I'll talk about later. I'm trying to think what we can save for later. Like one that pops into mind is Check My Machine, which is the biggest surprise. That was the biggest surprise of the night for me. And I love that. I love that track. And Paul seemed to me to be having more fun with that song than a lot of some of the other ones talking about it. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of items that I liked about it. It was so much fun. I was having so much fun. I had been watching episodes on Hulu where when one would end, another one would start, and I couldn't wait for the next one to start. Then I didn't want them to end. I was sad when it was over. So it really exceeded my expectations, and I had a lot of fun watching it with my girlfriend. So it exceeded my expectations insofar as, while it was the same thing, the fun was infectious, as you said, a good word for that. I was really getting heavily into it, and I did learn a few things I didn't know. Maybe one of them being about Michelle. I don't think I'd heard that before. Coming from Ivan Vaughn, was it his? Tell me, was it
his mother,
wife or girlfriend or
mother?
mother?
I don't know if I was going to say mother, sister, wife. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Paul
I
French.
remember Ivan Vaughn's somebody, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that before. That's one thing, and yeah, just some positive things. I mean, I like Paul giving George Martin a lot of credit. He seemed to go back to George Martin a lot, which to me, he's always been the true fifth Beatle. And I love when Paul gives him that credit, and also Ringo, because one of the things that I always bring up to people who say Ringo just got lucky, I always said, he was considered a professional more or less, and the Beatles the amateurs, and Paul kind of said that too, and I like he gave Ringo that nod at the time. So that's I'll talk a little bit about other things, but I'll give other people a chance because I got a lot of notes, things that I wanted to talk about. But overall, yeah. So yeah, was it the same old, same old? A good chunk of it. just a little bit of new stuff, but it didn't matter because hearing all the tracks isolated, and seeing them react to them and everything was a thrill. And I wanted more. And I also liked that they went out of sequence. They didn't go in strict chronological order. I think that was refreshing. And maybe one disappointment was the very end. The last chapter seemed to end abruptly with no formal thank you kind of ending, which makes me thinking maybe there will be more because there were 15 hours. Maybe it's not the end if this does well. Maybe they'll come up with another one. And the part we saw, part 6, I guess, is not the end.
Right. I could have swore during one of the trailers I heard Another Day being played in one of the trailers. So hopefully that they are going to do more of these, and then more songs will be, presented to us. But Ken, real quick, do you think, without getting specific, do you think Paul should have a historian?
Yes.
Because
well, definitely Paul should do a lot more of this stuff. I mean, there's a part of me that wishes that Paul would spend every waking moment still writing and recording and doing as much as he can. But at the same time, it's important to have his work documented really well. And usually with every single album he's released on his own, he's given interviews, so you can find some quotes here and there about most of his songs, but still you need more of that. And you even need more of that in the Beatles stuff.
Well, that's what that's what I'm saying, because, it's 60 years. I mean, our memories can't be, perfect. I mean, we can't remember every little detail, and some stories might be, a fishtail, a big fishtail. But I mean, I think sometimes I feel like that he should have somebody, to the side saying, well, that's not 100% accurate, but it makes for a good story, though.
If I may interject, that's why that bit about early days where Paul says, they weren't there. How could they, whatever the lyric was, how could they read Mackenzie? How they could know when they weren't where it was at? But he doesn't. One thing that stood out in my mind, I loved them talking about like Another Girl, a little bit about the song Another Girl, and Paul, I'm pretty sure plays lead on that.
He does.
And he didn't remember playing lead on it, or at least he said he didn't. And he was like, I don't know if I want it. It's not very good or something. That's bad.
I couldn't tell if he was joking or not.
Yeah, I hope he was joking.
There was a quote from him. I have it written down here somewhere about, where was it? About playing lead. Yeah, here it is. I specialize in bold mistakes.
Yes, that was great.
So so evidently he didn't think much of his lead guitar work in Another Girl. So if he said that, he must have known that was him.
Yeah, good. Yeah, true.
I'm not sure if that was me or whatever. So,
but they both thought, for example, that let's see, what I have no.
Well, Sgt. Pepper was the first gatefold.
Yeah, the first gatefold, but it really technically wasn't. But not only that, but one album per week, year.
Or 1 year, one album per year.
Yeah.
One album per year. I'm like, what? In the early days, they did a lot more than one album per year. But so if he says it, a lot of people, I know people are going to say, well, I only go by what the Beatles say. No, when it comes to their history, they naturally, I don't fault them for that. It's very easy to make a mistake, and they're not as fanatical about remembering their history as historians are. So I forgive them that. I just sometimes with history, they're not always on top.
Didn't he also mention at one point that, I think it was about Here, There, and Everywhere, that he said that John told him during the making of Help,
right?
Like, no, that's the wrong timeline. And I'm not blaming. I mean, Paul's almost 80. He's, I mean, he's lived a long, very busy life. I mean, I'm not, putting him down at all. But I mean, it's absolutely, I think he should. Work with it.
Which I wouldn't mind in a way, because it's been suggested, well, maybe he had the song written or something around that time. But I think Paul says, and this is not the first time he's told that story. I think he says that they played the record or something too. Revolver, presumably.
Well, he did during that CBS interview he did a few years back. He was taught that was the talk where he mentioned that was the only time that John had praised him for or complimented him for anything. Which was Here, There, and Everywhere.
By Paul's own. Thank you for reminding me. I forgot. By Paul's own story he's told before, he always says about the line, "The movement you need is on your shoulder" from Hey Jude,
Right.
and John said,
You
"You're not
won't,
going."
you
He said, "I'm
know.
going to be taking that. I'll be taking that one out." Paul says, "No," and
Right.
John, "No, you won't. That's the best bit in it.
Best
You're not
part.
taking that
Right.
out. It's good."
Right.
So
Right.
I whatever. It's the memory, However,
Right.
I that's a good example. I can't tell Paul what's true or not in that. He knows
Sure.
whether John complimented him or not. But
Right.
I know John loved Hey Jude even at the time.
Right.
So
Well, Joe,
There,
you've been. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ken. Go ahead.
there are times when they're going to get their facts wrong.
Sure.
And that's just the way that it is. Like you said, you get older, he's almost 80. You can't really find fault with him. But I also would defend the Beatles in the sense that, like Paul said, you weren't there when this was happening. And there are fans out there that think they know more about the Beatles than they do. There's a certain knowledge that comes from being one of them that none of us will ever have on the planet.
well, those are feelings.
And no, but I'm saying
Not
having
dates.
experienced it when you're one of them, there are things that
Yes.
they will know
Oh,
that
yeah.
none of us will ever know.
Right. Right.
So
Of
whatever
course.
they have to say will always have value. You shouldn't just say everything has to be 100% accurate, but don't ever think that you know more than they do.
Some
because there'll always
historians
be
know more.
so much.
Right.
Some historians know more about dates anyway. I'm not
Well,
talking
that's
about.
one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing to memorize dates. It's another thing to have lived through everything that they did.
No,
Oh,
And
sure.
you can't expect the Beatles to remember every single
I
day of
don't.
their lives and what they did.
No.
No,
I
that's
covered that.
it's
I said
important to
that.
have
I don't
all
fault
this.
him.
Yeah, but
I don't fault Paul
still,
for that. He's
whatever.
entitled and he's older, and you can't remember everything. I don't remember everything about
No.
myself.
But we should always respect anything that they have to say, and most of the time, I do feel that they're telling you the truth. And then there's also how they remembered it.
Right.
Right.
I always bring this up, and to people who follow the work that I do, I apologize for repeating this a lot, but I've been talking about this since the 80s. But this whole thing that McCartney first started saying in the 1980 interview with Paul Gambardini about the Beatles not coming to America until they had a #1.
Right.
I've never fully understood what he meant by that because it's presented in such a way that it's almost like he's saying that the Beatles wouldn't be on the Ed Sullivan show until they had a
Right.
#1
I
record.
believe that's what he
And
meant.
I
do.
don't think that's
But
what
if
he
you
meant.
What are you
listen
trying to rational?
closely,
Give everybody.
if you
always
listen closely,
praise.
you hear him say, "Well, then we waited and we waited. We didn't quite get there, and then it finally happened." So it sounded like he was trying to make it sound like it wasn't like at 1964, February of '64. You know what I mean? He made it sound like it was at least a little, maybe 60, maybe 63 at some point. Hey, let's not go until we have a hit. I mean, obviously they had a few singles drop before the #1, but I kind of got the sense that it was a little earlier than say maybe late 60 or late 63, early 64.
Well, it's very easy to misinterpret
Right.
what he's saying there. And it's only in recent years that I've started to think, and even I'm not sure if this is even accurate, that what he meant was the Beatles would tour the United States. And that was in June of '64.
Right.
So, but it's very easy for anyone who hears him say this to think, oh, they wouldn't have been on the Ed Sullivan show. It just so happens that they were lucky that I Want to Hold Your Hand hit #1 right at that time. It was very lucky on their part.
Right.
But all the contracts were signed to be on that show before the single ever came.
Right.
So, but this is how he remembers it. And maybe what he meant was tour America. But who knows? He might have said to Brian, we shouldn't come to America until we have a #1. It's just in the context and the way that it's presented, it almost sounds like he's saying, coming to America, the big arrival, Ed Sullivan show, New York,
Well, I mean, I understand. I mean, I definitely. First of all, I think that was a very good idea. If if that could have been orchestrated, that's a good plan. That's a good way of approaching it. It's very, very brilliant. I'm not sure it worked out like that, but yeah, people's memories and what they mean and what you think they meant. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I know Paul. Last time I saw him in 2017, I believe, he said that. I Want to Be Your Man, I think that's when he said it, was the Stones' first #1. Now that's a simple mistake. It doesn't mean anything. But if you go verbatim by it, like, oh, the Beatles said it, so that's the law, it's not always the truth. He can, he made a mistake. It was a modest hit for them, right? Stones, I Want to Be Your Man, right? It wasn't a big hit. It wasn't number one.
Top 20.
Yeah.
But not just an example. I mean, I say, yeah. And then other things, certainly, boy, nobody could say how they felt and experienced things.
Oh yeah, only they know that.
They own that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure.
And also talking about, the Beatles were adamant to release singles that were not on their albums, and that's true. But they had plenty of singles that were on their albums.
Sure.
Right.
Even going back to Please Please Me.
Yeah.
Right.
They advertised it.
Yeah.
On the cover.
A Hard Day's Night and Help had 2 singles each from those albums.
Right.
And Abbey Road had Come Together in Something, and Revolver had Yellow Submarine and Eleanor Rigby.
Right.
So yeah, they had a lot of non-album singles, and it's true that they didn't want to release something twice and make the fans pay for it twice, give you more for the money. I believe all that too, but it's not like they did everything that way.
Right.
They had a lot of singles that were on their albums, so that's not entirely true.
Okay. Right. Cool. Right on. Kit, let's get with highlights. Let's talk about favorite moments for you. What put a smile on the Queen's face?
Okay. Well, I mean, there were just great moments. I mean, many of them were at that soundboard. I loved the Dear Prudence section when they were talking about that and playing some the Isolations, the bass on that. I thought that was really interesting when they were talking about Paul's technique on that, and then and then that long note.
Oh yes,
that they all held. I never really noticed that until they isolated it like that, and how long they held it.
Right.
I mean that that was fascinating, and how Paul talked about that they all kind of pushed themselves to the limit, and they all kind of goaded each other on, like, come on, we can do this. And it just was an example of what they would do in the studio, that they would just that's what they would do, is just to, like, try new things, and I think that's what set them apart from it. And I mean, this is something we knew. I mean, I know this isn't brand new information, but I think that it's just another, really shows how they were, what set them apart from other bands at the time, that they would just try anything. I just thought that was breathtaking. I also liked the when they talked about While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and I thought that Rick Rubin had such an interesting observation about how he said there were almost like 2 different songs going on at the same time. Again, didn't really think of it that way. There were just some moments that I thought, wow, I think I'm going to be listening to that, some of these songs differently from now on. And that was another one that, Paul was playing bass pretty aggressively on that.
Right.
And then, but then you hear George's vocal, and it's, much more gentle song. I thought that was absolutely fascinating. So that was another one. I was glad they talked about Babies in Black. That was a nice surprise, because I mean, that's a song that I think is underrated by many people, and even Paul, I think he made some comment about it's not always a fan favorite or something, and
he did say that,
which I don't know if I go quite that far, but I mean, it's for the casual fan maybe.
But that was very different for them too, that song at the time. It was something different than what they had been recording.
Yeah, because it was in 3/4 time.
Exactly. So yeah, and he said that they always just wanted to try something different. And and again, that just was something. And he said something like, we were kind of proud of this one. We thought we were getting kind of funky or something like that. It's like, I don't know if I call it funky, but I mean, I saw what he was getting at.
But even the subject, even the topic of it, that Babies in Black, it's not just I love you and whatever they might have been doing. That's kind of about the way I always took it about him never coming back. I always thought it was she's not going doesn't want to shed her mourning outfit to mourn
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, right. And I was also thrilled they talked about Another Girl, because that's another one that I think doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah,
for being such a great song. So I was glad they talked about that. Also loved when talking about Roy Orbison. I mean, I know they've talked about him being an influence before, but I loved how, Paul talked about, and he may have talked about this before, but I don't think a lot, about how, Roy Orbison taught him about how to end a song.
Right.
Which I thought was really an interesting observation. It's like, that is something that the Beatles did. They didn't always have a big ending, but some of them did, and they really did think through their beginnings and endings. And Paul did in his solo career too. I mean, like they talked about with Live and Let Die.
Right.
With that unresolved chord. And I didn't think of Roy Orbison being the inspiration for that, but I'm like, I mean, Roy Orbison did always have this climactic, dramatic ending, and that, so there were some moments like that I just, I just would think, wow, that's really fascinating,
Right.
So there were a lot of the same stories, but there'd be those little nuggets like that just, would make you think about a song in a whole new way, and just seeing Paul just getting excited listening to these,
watching them both just like rock their heads back and forth, looking at each other.
Exactly.
They appeared to have some chemistry. They appeared to have some a good chemistry.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, Rick Rubin just looked like at times like, I can't believe I'm talking about this. Paul McCartney standing right there. I would have had a dumb grin on my face the whole time too. Are you kidding me?
Right. Go ahead, Ken.
One aspect about this documentary that I like is that that there are those stories that Paul has said so many times that he's like on autopilot. But here you're watching him as he's listening to the music, and what he's saying is whatever he's thinking off the top of his head. It's very spontaneous. It's in the moment.
So you don't feel it's scripted then?
Not those moments. No.
Okay.
Talking about getting better and John coming back with couldn't get no worse.
Worse,
no,
right.
It's scripted now. By this time.
Right. So Ken, what about you?
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Sorry. Yeah. What about you, Ken? Talk about some highlights.
Well, I tell you, it's as if Kit read my notes. First thing, the number one definite thing was Dear Prudence, and hearing the three of them harmonize and holding that high note, and Paul pushing them, like you said, Kit. Oh, that was heaven. I mean, if that's all I heard in the whole documentary, it was worth it for that.
Yeah, that was worth the price of admission right there. Yeah.
Also, you were talking about the bass it was very trebly on Dear Prudence, which made it very unique sounding. And, Rick Rubin made the observation, and it's true, in a way, Paul McCartney plays the bass like a lead guitar. And when you're hearing two lines going on at the same time, it's two different melodies. It's like counter melody. There was that moment when they're showing James Jamerson for What's Going On, which is strange because that song came out after the Beatles broke up.
Yeah.
But Paul had said that he realized that with the bass and the drums, you could control the band. And certainly when you've got Paul and Ringo on the same tracks and they're locked together, which is best illustrated with Come Together, hearing just the bass and drums. I love that part. Maybe I'm Amazed. There were some guitar notes that were played that were not in the final mix. And there was also a different lead vocal that they played.
Yes.
So I don't know if that was from a completely different take or just one that wasn't used in that take. You mentioned While My Guitar Gently Weeps, the isolated bass, very aggressive sound in the tone. Paul also played a brand new song on the piano. I don't know what it was. Did anybody see a song title for that?
Nope.
No.
He played Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. There was an alternate take with Paul straining on a high vocal. He performed.
His comment was great, though.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He said, "That's why we don't dig into tapes."
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah.
He also performed Thinking of Linking, which was nice.
Yeah.
Some other things. He talked about Nowhere Man, that the solo on there he called very cutting edge, and they put tons of treble on it. After one treble effect after another, they laid on that solo. I like the fact that they played "If You Got to Make a Fool of Somebody" by James Ray,
Yes.
and that whole connection of James Ray. There was an album that George Harrison bought when he came to visit here to see his sister in America in 1963. He took that album home with him by James Ray. That same album had "Got My Mind Set on You."
And that was good that he
on it.
mentioned that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul.
So that was really nice. Let's see. Talking about in Hamburg, he said, we played so many hours, he didn't want to get bored, which led them to writing songs. And it's all in the way you interpret what he said, because, John and Paul, what drove them together, I've heard Paul say this, was that Paul realized that John wrote songs too when they first met. Now, they may not have written that many songs early on. And when you're in a band, and Paul's talked about this many times, when you're on the same bill with another band and they're doing some of the same material, the same cover versions that you're doing, you want to have something different to put into your act. So that made them want to do more original songs.
Very cool.
From the very beginning, they were writing original songs, just maybe not as frequently. I do like the fact that not only did Paul give George Martin a lot of credit, but he also gave credit to the other Beatles in certain instances.
Yes.
And pointed out "All My Loving," which John plays rhythm guitar on it, and it's very fast what he's playing, and it's not that easy to play, which they had to do live.
Right.
So he pointed that out.
Should try doing that for 3 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with "And I Love Her." Once again, he brings up the fact that George Harrison wrote those 4 notes that you hear throughout the song that starts it, do 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 do, and he couldn't imagine the song without it. But he also mentioned the backing that George gave to the song and the individual notes that he was playing at the same time, which really added to the arrangement. So, I love when he did that, giving the other Beatles credit and George Martin a lot. So yeah, there was a lot of high moments throughout this whole thing. And kind of like what Joe said, even though each episode was 30 minutes, each one really flew by.
You were action-packed. They were like one right after another. The editing was flawless on this thing.
Yeah, it seemed like 10 minutes.
It did.
Episode.
Flew by.
Yeah.
Flew by.
I agree.
Susan Gagney just said the song that Paul played, the song was "Life Can Be Hard," and it's already registered in ASCAP.
Okay.
Wow.
All
okay,
right.
good.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Susan.
Yeah. Maybe Rick is going to produce that song. You never know.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. You got the sense that Rick was a huge fan of Paul's bass playing, because
he mentioned
just
the
about
bass
just about every track that they played, he would isolate the bass part, and that was definitely one of my favorite bits. And I would say also, every time they talked about a different artist, they would do like a 10-30 second video or a shot or picture of that artist, like John Cage, Robert Moog, David Mason, James Jamerson. I really appreciate that. That just gave so much to the story. Now people can put a face to the name, especially like the piccolo trumpet that David Mason played. I mean, those little images I thought were just knockout and great addition to the series. Joe, what were your standouts?
Well, I'm glad that, because of course, a lot of things Ken mentioned and all the rest of you I agree with, and I had already mentioned some of my standouts, but one that I'm glad Ken slipped by him, I think, maybe, I don't know. I because we're always in this quest to, like, we want to hear different songs, whether it's Babies in Black talked about, just at the fact that they mention it, or Another Girl. But I liked also, in addition to Check My Machine, that the Waterfalls was played. And I tell you, Waterfalls is not a personal favorite of mine, although I appreciate it. But what I noticed about it is, I think Paul was saying, I'm paraphrasing him, he thought maybe the synths inside of it didn't work or ruined it or something. And at one point, I think Rick Rubin said, no, that's what makes it modern or something. And then Paul kind of sees it a different way and agrees, which made me think that happens so many times with Paul. We've talked about that, where he's down on some of his stuff that's not the most popular stuff like Band on the Run, and he
Hmm.
doesn't think about other things until somebody else, a fan or somebody, says, "Hey, that was pretty good." Oh yeah, I guess it was. Like that story he tells about wildlife,
Life, right?
when
Yeah.
somebody, a fan said, "Hey, I'm going up to the woods,"
Right.
and he met Paul and said, "I'm
Right.
taking this with me." And the fan said, "The best album you ever made," and he was like, "Oh, so he's maybe." I love that bit, and I picked up on that. It seemed to me like Paul, he was glad somebody like Rick Rubin appreciated that and gave a compliment on waterfalls. I mean, how often
Yeah.
does that happen? And
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff I really wish was a little more in there. But I understand that, like we've said, the casual fans or the newbies out there, there's always new generations. They might not have heard the Getting Better story, or
Hmm.
About the Penny Lane, high pitch piccolo, trumpet, whatnot. This might be news to them, but I like that. One other thing that I'll say that I liked was, well, first of all, because the whole thing was done like kind of black and white and a little gray, whenever they would show the colorized photos, some of them were colorized, a lot of them were colorized, and I think some of them might have been real color, but they really worked well, I thought, the way they jumped out at you, in addition to, enjoying the gloomy atmosphere. I mean, when I say gloomy,
Mm.
I guess it's like looking back, the old days. We're reminiscing here, but those photos really made the punch because they were in color. I thought, contrast to the whole documentary. So,
Hmm.
yeah, everything else that I've noted here has pretty much been talked about. Yeah, I concur with a lot of everything, and everything else I said is pretty much what you guys are
But
saying.
there's one thing I want to ask you, because over the last couple of years that I've known you, you have been kind of vocal about Paul now taking credit about things,
Yeah, I
and I
forgot
wanted to
about
get
that. Yeah,
your take on that.
yeah.
I mean, how did you feel watching this? Did you feel like he was taking more credit than maybe what he should have?
I'm glad you reminded me because I forgot about that. Now, see, even though I always say, "Oh, I've heard all these things so many times before," very rarely do I hear anything new, like the Michelle French parts, how that came to be that he used those. I don't know why I forgot this. Yeah, Come Together. This was the first time that I'd heard the story, and I thought it was a new story, but apparently Paul's told this before. I've since learned
Hmm.
that he said maybe, and it was in the book many years from now
Mm.
or somewhere, he mentioned that Come Together was very fast at first, like a Chuck Berry kind of fast too. Now,
Hmm.
I didn't know, I'd never, somehow I missed that. So I thought this was like, it's a new Paul, revision thing maybe, but not a lie. See, that's the thing. Whenever I say these things, I don't think Paul ever lies about these things, ever. I just think sometimes, uh, I don't know. It seems like as he gets older, I've always thought that maybe he wants everybody to be extra sure that, well, I had a big hand in this. So, true or not, the thing is that it seems very important in these late years to him. Come Together was eventually slowed down. And I think swampy was the word,
Yeah.
and I thought, oh wow, I said, that wasn't John's idea either. That was a Paul thing, But unbeknownst to me, during the viewing of the show, he'd already talked about that previously. This is the first
Mm.
time I'd heard it, so
Right.
it wasn't a new thing.
He was
Gotcha.
afraid that people would accuse him of ripping off Chuck Berry
Right.
and the song "You Can't Catch Me,"
Mm.
Yeah.
and because even in that song, there's the
Right.
opening line, "Here come
Yeah.
old flat
Yes.
top."
Flat top.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to make it less obvious, he wanted the song to be slowed down.
Right.
Wasn't obvious enough, apparently.
Yeah.
I know.
Wasn't
To
enough.
bring
Right.
that up.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me recently after I did my video on this, said, I wonder why Paul didn't also get in trouble because it's Lennon
It's a
McCartney.
co-write, right? Yeah.
You know, I mean,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
so I never thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, while I'm watching it, I'm taking a lot in, and there was I think a lot of interesting sound bites from Paul. Specifically a few, like you were talking about Check My Machine, I think it was, and Paul was talking about regrets, and then Rick Rubin said I think he said something like, "You don't seem like the kind of guy that would have a lot of regrets." And then Paul, I think he just said, "For John," and I thought that was a really cool statement from Paul. While they're talking about Hamburg, I think Paul kind of dissed these talent shows today, where he said something
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
these acts, they get fame, right off the bat, and they just don't know how to
Mhm.
do it, or something like that.
Mhm.
In that
Yeah.
regard. And
American
I thought
Idol.
that was really interesting. Let's see here. In the band, in the statement you said earlier, Ken, about him saying you can control a band by playing bass. I thought that was pretty interesting. I never heard him, say something like that before. So really, a lot of great sound bites from Paul and Rick Rubin. I thought during this whole show. Kit, what were some of the things that kind of made you cringe a little bit?
Well, kind of along the lines of what I said earlier about like not discussing the Sgt. Pepper lead vocal. There were moments where there'd be these little tidbits, and I was waiting for them to follow up, and nothing would happen. For example, when they were discussing, I think Rick asked Paul, were there any records or artists at the time in the 60s that really impressed he and the other Beatles? And then he said, well, the Kinks, You Really Got Me.
Right.
And, yeah. And, and then they, I think they showed a little clip of the Kinks playing it. And he said, yeah, we liked the guitars. It was a good little record. And I think they mentioned the Beatles would when they were touring with them, would watch them play it. Yeah. And they said, yeah, it was a good little record. Moved on. I'm like, wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. Well, what about it?
Right.
So there was that. There was another moment where I think it was when he was recording Live and Let Die, and I think Rick Rubin was asking him when he was recording in that period, did he ever go into other studios or the other recording studios and see if there were other drop in on other recording sessions or something? And he said, well, yeah, when Pink Floyd was recording Dark Side of the Moon. Right. And yeah, I knew the engineer, and they'd give me tapes. Mm-hmm. That was it. Really, no follow up.
He could have elaborated on the fact that they were all recorded. The band Wings was recorded for the album, which we can hear Henry McCullough on the song Us and Them.
Exactly. And so there were moments like that I just thought, there's no follow-up. I mean, really, yeah. I mean, there was, it just was so frustrating, that I just think there were some lost moments that, unless they were cut.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, maybe they were cut for time. I don't know, but that really frustrated me, because I just thought there's more there. And I hope that was the case, because I hope Rick Rubin didn't just say, interesting. All right, let's move on. I mean,
I remember noting, though, I take what you're saying, but I did like when he brought, acknowledged the Kinks. I thought, that's cool, just for the moment. He didn't follow up much with it, but he did bring that up, and I thought that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, and I did too, and I thought that was a good question. Were there other, and he's like, yeah, that was a good little record. Like, what was good about it? What do you mean? That was cool. I mean, what? Right. So yeah, there were moments like that I thought, you've got Paul McCartney in front of you,
Right.
Geez, follow up, ask him some more specific details. So yeah, there were, and I mean, sure, when he started in on the Yesterday Story and everything, I thought, oh, that was
funny, because you get through 5 episodes and you're going, he's not going to do the Yesterday Story.
Oh, you got to save the best for last.
And then episode 6 starts, and that's how they start the episode.
I just thought, you got to be kidding. And Rick's like, really? And I thought, no.
You were doing so good.
Yeah, but this was going so well. I mean, it's there were the stories of telling the Jimi Hendrix playing Sgt. Pepper and Eric Clapton, and you go tune my guitar, and so I mean, I just like, I'll shut this off. I can tell the rest of the story, So I mean, there were moments like that, and but again, you have to think about, I guess, who the audience is,
right?
Exactly. We may not be the primary audience, so So I mean, but other than that, yeah, there were just some moments, like I
Right.
mentioned, where I wish there had been more follow up. But
And you're right about there. You got to remember who the audience is because the one story that continues to frustrate me every time I hear him say it, and he said it a lot in the past, is my two members of Wings left the night before we were supposed to go to Legos, and that's not necessarily accurate because
he was there.
Denny Sywell has said in multiple interviews that Henry had left weeks prior already, so it wasn't technically the night. Now I know it makes for a great story. I mean, absolutely, makes for a great story, and we know Paul likes to tell a great story. And then Denny has also said that he had also quit, a few days prior too, and then finally he said called him the night before and said, "Look, I'm not," he confirmed it again that he's not going to show up. So just a little frustrating bit for me, but
it does really change the story around when you think about it, because
it does. Yeah.
If Paul had ample time, he could have easily have gotten 2 more musicians to join him.
Right.
Instead, it sounds so much better when they were flying out.
Right.
It was only
exactly
Linda and Denny.
Right.
Even though Paul can record the whole album himself if he wanted to, I'm sure.
If you wanted to, yeah.
But it just sounds better when it was just the 3 of them.
Right. No, I agree. Then the fade to black at the end. I am kind of really happy that they end it with arguably the greatest Beatles song of all time, "A Day in the Life," which I thought, and they spent some good time on that. I thought that was really good. But other than that, I mean, just some stories that he tells, it kind of just like, okay, it makes for a good story, yes, but it's not 100% accurate. But people like us know that, not necessarily, everybody out there. Ken, what about you? What kind of made you cringe a little bit, if anything?
Just the fact that there wasn't enough solo.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, we can all argue this point back and forth many times, but it's 50 plus years of a solo career and a very successful solo career.
Right.
It's just that when you're dealing with the band that had the greatest catalog of all time that changed the world, how do you compete with that?
Right.
And like I said earlier, the most recent songs that he covered here, apart from his brand new one, were Waterfalls and Check My Machine.
Right.
Come on. Look at everything that followed. Look at all the great albums he's made from the 80s on up. And, anybody who's just a new fan getting into this, well, you don't want to hit them over the head with everything, but you'd never know that Paul has had this other life after the Beatles all that much. He's basically a Beatle. And that will always bother me. It's like what we said about his upcoming book of lyrics. I hope that there's a really good representation of his solo work on that. But I'm not sure. I have heard that there won't be a DVD release of this. I don't know for a fact.
For now,
we don't know.
But I certainly would love to see this on DVD. And if, in fact, there are 15 hours, I'd love to see all of it.
Bring it on.
Yeah. And I know from having done a lot of radio production, like you were talking about, Kid, about editing, there could have been a lot of stuff that Rick Rubin said in response to what Paul's saying that were taken out, cut out for time. And it's a shame. There's so much good stuff that I've had to take out of shows that I think are really substantial, that really add a lot to the interview. But if everything is pressed for time, you got to remove some stuff. So you're not getting everything. So, yeah. But I will say one thing that I didn't mention, because anytime there's one thing that I've never heard before, that really stands out. And the one thing most of all was when Paul was talking about Michelle. And he brought up that Edith Piaf song,
yes,
The Lord, and that the song was influenced by that. I've never heard him say that before. Also the fact that he said George Martin helped out with the arranging the harmonies for Michelle. And you don't hear about George Martin doing that because you figure the Beatles always worked out the harmonies themselves. So yeah, but the Edith Piaf, that's new. That's completely new to me. So
yeah, some other interesting things too was, okay, like you said, Ken, earlier about maybe I'm amazed you're hearing this guitar part, you know, that he lifted up on the console. And then also while he was playing Band on the Run, you could also hear some audio going on. I think Paul was walking through the song. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not.
Yeah, now that you're mentioning it, faded. Yeah,
Yeah,
faintly.
and you know, I'm like, okay, why weren't those on the archive releases?
Yeah, good question.
But I like Maybe I'm Amazed better the way it turned out, though.
Well,
I mean,
true,
maybe
but
because of what
but
you're
like
used
we
to,
said,
maybe.
right? But like we said during here, we like the evolution of stuff. We like to hear different,
Yes.
parts of the song that he probably took out, like the trumpet that Denny Sywell played during the middle part of Some People Never Know. He totally took that part out, but then we got to hear it in the archive release. But yeah, there's little bits like that. It's like, why it's just so interesting to hear this. Why couldn't you put it in there? But
And you understand why it was taken out.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
usually doesn't dig into tapes. Joe, what was some of your least favorite moments?
Well, as far as cringeworthy, nothing really made me cringe, which is good. I had a good time overall. I was disappointed in a couple of things. I mentioned earlier, if you want to just find something, some of the inaccuracies, no big deal. Everybody makes mistakes or doesn't remember exactly. But I don't want to get too far into this, but I'll sweeten it up at the end, and it has to do with Paul's voice. A couple of times I thought he was trying to sing things, and it was sad. It was a little sad, but then again, hey, look, I loved McCartney 3, loved it, and I love some of the songs I love, like Women and Wives. I love his voice on that, so I'm not here to pick on Paul. Oh, he can't sing anymore or anything, but at times it was a little, unfortunate. I thought, oh, he couldn't do that, and in fact, Maybe I'm Amazed he didn't sing. I don't know if that, what the deal was with that, if it was we just never sang it or was taken out or whatever. But that's the way I'll turn it into something sweet that I want to say is now all of us here, I mean, we love the Beatles. Surprise, right? We think they're the greatest, right? And we know all the songs. But yet when I'm watching something like this, and my girlfriend watches the whole thing, and I'm excited about her reaction too, because she's getting so into them through me a lot. And even though we've heard these songs a million times, when you hear them doing it this way, dissecting things, playing bits, it's like I'm so impressed. What a great group. As if I'm hearing the first time. Wow, no wonder they're so great. No wonder we feel the way we do. No wonder new generations consistently get into them. And the music always carries on decade after decade. Why is that? Here it is, listening to him bringing up Sergeant Pepper and doing the vocal, and then all these other explanations he's giving for like the sounds they're trying to put in Penny Lane and the horns and everything. It always looking to go that extra step and how they're going to arrange to get certain sounds and this and experiment and never want to do the same thing, but always looking to climb that ladder a little bit. So it's just ingenious stuff. It's unlike anybody else. Granted, of course, there's tons of artists that experiment and do things the Beatles didn't do, but yeah, it impresses me as if I've never heard these things before. First time.
Yeah, that's oh no, I was just gonna say that's exactly what I was thinking, Joe. That's what I was saying earlier, that's what one of the things you walk away with when they're deconstructing all this stuff and at the soundboard, that that's what set them apart. Well, there were other things too, but that's one of the main things that set them apart from certainly groups from that era. But I think, same thing today, that they were constantly they didn't want to get bored. They were always trying new things. They want,
and recording from like 63 to 69, a small bit of time. I'm still waiting for some artists to have another album in 5-6 years,
Exactly.
Another one, I got to say it, I almost forgot that. A good example of this, when the guitars and Your Bird Can Sing came blaring on. I'm like, oh man, I love that. How great that is. That's so great. I've always loved that. When I was a kid, that's one of my earliest memories of the Beatles was the cartoon show. And that was the intro to the cartoon show, And Your Bird Can Sing. And it sounded so great, even at like 4 years old, And
go ahead.
Yeah, one of the joys of watching this is seeing Paul react to the music.
Yeah.
And he also said words to the effect that, he's only now
And it's just gonna,
allowing
just
himself to be
love
a
to be a
Beatles
fan.
fan.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was
That's
just gonna
true.
say.
Yeah. He has said in the past, like the only people that couldn't see the Beatles live were the Beatles themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the same thing, to
Right.
listen as a fan and
Yes.
not just as one of the artists that made up these recordings. So, and letting himself enjoy it on that level.
Ken, is this something you're gonna try to go back to and watch again, as much as you can? I mean, did you enjoy it
Yeah.
enough to where it's worthy, you think, for another 2, 3, 4 watches?
This is one of those rare instances when I would say yes.
Hmm.
Most videos and even concerts I can watch once, and it takes a long time for me to go back.
Hmm.
Um, but this, because there's always things that I missed picking up the first time around, and hearing you guys talk about certain things that oh yeah, all right, he
Mm.
did say this. So I'd
Mm.
want to go back and hear it again and watch it again. So
Right.
this is a rare time when this is something that I would watch more frequently.
Cool. Kit, how about you?
I don't know if I would watch the entire series again. I mean, there are certain moments that I would, certain episodes I would go back and watch again. If there is yes, if the 15 hours come out, or
Mm.
if there's a second series to this, sign me up. I
Mm.
would absolutely love to hear more of this. I wish these episodes had been longer.
Right. Joe, repeat for you.
Yeah, I would like to have it on a disc, Blu-ray, DVD, or something. Hopefully, there's more, maybe extra
Right.
footage and fleshed out for a DVD release, something. And I go back to it from time to time. Sure. Right now, I'm not really into watching it. Like now, I wouldn't watch the episodes again right now.
Right.
But yeah, a year from now, I'd love that. Pull it off the shelves back there
Mm.
and put it in. Yeah.
Cool. Ken, how did you feel the show was presented? Did you like how it was presented in the studio? It seems like I read that this was done in Rick Rubin's studio. I don't know
Mhm.
how accurate that is, but I mean, did you like the setup?
Absolutely. The one thing, and I remember talking about this on my other podcast show, before we got to see this, we read a synopsis of each
Mm-hmm.
episode. And watching each episode, it's almost like they all flow. There's no one difference between one episode and another one.
Right.
All these songs seem to be randomly picked. He could have just as easily have done another 15 Beatles songs, 15 different
Mm-hmm.
Beatles songs if he wanted to. But I did like the approach, and it was very loose, off the cuff, and
Right.
I like that.
Agreed.
I mean, the whole purpose behind this is to watch him talk about this music with Rick Rubin and bring up those faders and how he's responding to it.
Mm.
So and it's a fascinating thing to watch what's going on in his brain, whatever memories get triggered from listening to this.
Mm.
It's not like this was all prepared in his head, what everything he was going to
Right.
say. So I think anytime he could do this for Beatles or solo Beatle music, and you're hearing his thoughts, something that's not planned in his brain, just as he's hearing the recordings, that's just so fascinating. Whatever
Right.
memories come back.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was very pleased with the way the whole thing was presented, but it's not like there's any distinction between one episode and another.
Right.
No.
Gotcha. Kit, what'd you think about the setup?
Yeah, I mean, I like that it wasn't, I mean, it certainly was professional, but it wasn't slick,
Mm.
too slick, and that it wasn't, there weren't fast cuts, there, nothing like that. I like that it was, stripped down, black and white, no fancy sets, just, Rick, Paul, couple of chairs and maybe a couch or something. Whatever, the soundboard, piano, guitar. I mean, that's all you need. You don't need anything else. You just, the focus is on these two people, and just hearing their conversations. You don't need a lot of distraction. And I think, as you said, Ken, I think the episodes flowed so well that, they seem to go by in 10 minutes. I
Yep.
couldn't believe when each episode ended that that was 30 minutes. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I just also, I think that black and white kind of fit Rick Rubin, his production
Uh-huh.
style. I mean, I just thought, yeah, that's exactly right. And by the way, I loved Paul's jacket.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that great jacket?
I think that was the
looked
one.
fantastic.
I think that was the jacket he was wearing on the back of the Target edition of McCartney III.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
Yep. So Paul looked great. Rick Rubin. I mean, oh, okay,
Well,
yeah.
there you go.
It might be.
Yeah.
Yep. Loved his jacket, and Rick Rubin looked like, his guru. It was just great.
Joe, what did you think about the whole setup?
Not much to say. Ditto for the most part. At first I was wondering, I said, well, I wonder why they're doing it like they're in a mausoleum or tomb or something. Why does it got to be black and white and stuff like that? I mean, but again, I always got to justify and make sure people know I'm an old movie fan. I love film noir. I love 30s and 40s films. I get it. I like black and white. No big deal. And as time went on, I really appreciated the fact that it wasn't black and white. But no, that's all I could say about that. And I said earlier about the chronology. I enjoyed that it was kind of all over. You didn't know what they were going to talk about next. It wasn't just let's start over here with say Hamburg or something and go all the way up to I guess 1980. Leaving out a lot of solo stuff even in the 70s too. But so it worked out well.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah, I like not knowing what song was going to come next. That was a lot of fun. I mean, it was just like, Check My Machine. I mean, which
that's
a
favorite. I did look at my channel. I did a version of me.
You did.
It was like Christmas morning every 2 minutes. It
really was. And well, I have to say about Check My Machine, I love Rick Rubin, but when Rick Rubin said that's jazz, no, it isn't. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I don't like jazz, so that's why I like Check My Machine.
As soon as I heard Check My Machine, I thought of you, Joe.
Yes.
You're going to be enjoying this.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, I can't believe it. And he did the bit at the beginning of "Hi George, morning Terry."
Yeah. He was going word for word. Yeah, with that.
Did it.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really cool seeing him enjoy this music as a fan, like you said earlier, Ken. So, anybody got any last minute words before we wrap this episode?
More.
Well, there you go.
More. Give us more.
Yeah. There is one thing I want to bounce off of what Joe said about, how Paul likes to talk about the Beatles, and sometimes people think that he's trying to give himself too much credit. I think after John died, there was all this talk about John being the genius, and that really got to Paul, I think. But if you actually take the time to read many years from now, the biography on Paul's book, there are many times when he gives credit to the other Beatles for things that we didn't even know about. And I think that rather than trying to present the Beatles as though Paul was the genius or the leader, he tries to present the Beatles as though they were a real group effort. By bringing up all these instances, like we said, John's rhythm guitar and All My Lovin', George's contribution on And I Love Her, stuff like that. The nice things he said about While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Read the book many years from now. I think you'll really appreciate the fact that Paul wants the Beatles to be thought of as a true group effort. I'm always reminded of the fact that after John Lennon was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Paul was there, to give the speech, at the very end, he said, "Come on, guys, George and Ringo are next." It's always been more about the band.
And didn't he really want Ringo to be in?
Yeah, he helped Ringo get it.
Yeah, he pushed for it. Yeah.
He was pushing for it. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
But overall, very enjoyable documentary.
Excellent. Cool. So that was our look at McCartney 321, and like Joe said, more please. Glad you guys. Hope everybody out there enjoyed it. Kit, any comments that we can go through real quickly, or?
Yes. Let's see. Yeah, most people, agree that they want. Tony DeMayo said I wanted 6 hours. I couldn't believe it was only 3 hours. I completely agree. Completely agree with that. Maria Lynn said, as much as I love the solo videos you guys do, it's so cool hearing all of you talk about the Beatles together. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be doing more of that in November
Hopefully,
No.
when
Yeah.
Get Back comes
That's
out.
right. That's right.
Let's see. Okay, I'm just scrolling here. Susan Gagney said, yeah, the Edith Piaf story was new to me too.
Yep.
Yeah, new to me too. But when I mentioned Michelle, I didn't bring that up. But that was new. All that Michelle stuff was new to me. I don't know.
Yep. About Come Together, Marcus Thompson said Paul may have asked them to slow it down, but I'm 100% that the groove and overall sound was done collaboratively. Hopefully, Paul doesn't eventually say that he told Ringo and George how to play their parts.
Well, I think at times he did, though, didn't he? Play it like that.
Well, he did
You know what,
mention that with
excuse
Dear
me, do you know-
Prudence. He did mention that with Dear Prudence. That he
Yeah.
was-
Do you know? One thing. I just thought of that. That made me think. 1980. You mentioned it, Ken. The interview. It was a musician.
Dick
He
Garber.
said very frankly and abruptly. He said, "We always gave Ringo direction on every number." He said
did
there wasn't
say
like
that.
you know, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. And then he says there wasn't hardly a time where we didn't. We said, play what you feel. I'm thinking that I thought Ringo always prides himself that he kind of played what he's feeling at the time. That's another one we thought of at the last minute. That one I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
But I'm sure.
It's probably a combination of both.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Giving him direction,
definitely.
but Ringo came up with his own ideas and mixed that with whatever was suggested to him.
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Excellent. All right, kids.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. You got something else? Or
Oh no, just Serge Echeverry. I apologize if I've just massacred your name. George Martin received a lot of praise from Paul. He basically educated Paul on music producing. Yeah, he sure did.
Sure, yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, just really just a fascinating. Terry Walsh Kelly. I know her from California. It said Edith Piaf is close to my heart as you know. Anything French and Beatle related. Her mom was French. So she has, I just had to give her a quick shout out. So thanks for joining us, Terry. So yes, yeah, that was a really nice touch. I mean, that really was a nice little nugget of information.
Yeah,
in this.
Absolutely.
So very cool.
Cool. All right, kid. Well, why don't you start off and let everybody know how they can get hold of us here at Talk More Talk, and then yourself afterwards.
Absolutely. You can reach us, of course, many ways. You can reach us through our Facebook page, on Twitter at Talk More Talk 1, the number 1. You can email us at talkmoresolotalk@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, your ideas. We can't do the show without you guys, so we definitely want to hear from you. You can hear our show on virtually any podcasting platform you can think of. If there are any that you would like to see us on that that you use, please let us know. We can probably get on there. So just let us know, and we will do our best. You can, of course, check us out on our YouTube channel, and please subscribe. We got past 1,000 subsubscribers, so we want to just keep the momentum. Up. Right. We are going up. We are.
It's going up.
Yep.
There it is.
Well, let's keep that momentum going, folks. So, just tell everybody subscribe and check us out over there. So those are all the ways that you can find us. As far as I go, just a few things. First of all, just yesterday, I recorded an appearance on When They Was Fab, talking about episodes 3 and 4 of McCartney 321. So that should be up fairly soon. So just go over to their Facebook page, When They Was Fab. And of course, I will post as soon as the episode is up. I will put that up on my Facebook page and Talk More Talk. So do check that out. They're good friends of our show. So also a great show to listen to. I will be doing my monthly Facebook Live show this Thursday, July 31st, I think it is, at a special time. at 6:15 Eastern time, because at 7 o'clock, the guests on our next episode, Ken Womack and Jason Krupa, who are going to be here to discuss their new book on George Harrison and Eric Clapton. They are doing a virtual book launch at 7 p.m. Eastern that day. So I'm going to do my chat at 6:15, so you don't have to miss it. So come on and join me in my backyard. I think the weather will cooperate this time. So
excellent.
Yep. So you can join me there. And of course, don't forget to enroll in my Philadelphia Soul class, which will start this September. And I will post all the information on how to enroll on my Facebook page and also over on Talk More Talk. So I think that's everything.
I've got to check that out.
Yeah. Oh, I've been researching it. I'm putting it together. It's going to be a fun class.
Sounds like it's going to be fun. Absolutely. Thank you, Kit, for all that information. Appreciate it. Joe, how about you, my friend?
Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mean Mr. Mayo. And and if you like movies, my movie channel, I talk about movies and TV stuff. And that's now called Mayo's Marquee, like a movie marquee. Used to be Mayo's Movies. I made it Mayo's Marquee. In fact, it used to be called Mayo's Marquee, and I changed it to Mayo's Movies. Then back to Mayo's Marquee. Anyway, but back
You're making my head explode, Joe.
But back to Mean Mr. Mayo. I have a show on there called Fab Gab, and I just did an episode with David Ghosty Wills, and boy, is he terrific! You'll hear me.
Yep.
Fall all over him when I introduce him, because I really love his show, and you can learn more about that when you watch it. We discussed the U.S. albums, the U.S. Beatles albums, and Capitol, United Artists, and little VJ, and had a great time doing that with my co-host Matthew Street. So check that out if you can over on the Mr. Mayo channel, Mean Mr. Mayo.
Check his
and
machine.
I think that's it right now.
Very
well
good,
played,
very
sir.
Good. Over at the Two Legs, we're as busy as always. We just did a special unboxing. One of my co-host Andy, he received the Uber George Harrison All Things Must Pass box set a little early. So what we did is yesterday we did an unboxing, and man, that thing is bigger than I expected it to be. Amazing. It's a knockout. The George Harrison figures, the gnomes. I mean, everything is just massive about this set. It looks like it really is worth the money, and I'm really looking forward to getting mine. And I'm sure, Joe, you're excited about getting yours as well.
Hey, Kid, do I see a teardrop coming down your eye?
Shut up.
I know how bad you want those gnomes.
I want those gnomes, damn it.
And they look even. And the worst part is they look even better, bigger and more better than we.
Yeah, they do look bigger than I expected.
Yes,
yeah.
We did a show with Scott O'Rourke. We did a show about our favorite rockers, which was a lot of fun. Scott's a DJ on WSB, and you can check him out there. He does a Beatles show, I think, every other Thursday. But yeah, we had a great time talking about rockers, our favorite rockers throughout Paul's solo career. And we also did a live show on the McCartney 321 as well. That's on our YouTube channel. So you can type in Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast, and you can find us there. Please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I did a appearance on the very fun show, and kind of jealous that I didn't think of this one myself, but it's called Macca in the Attic by my friendly rival Sam Wiles over at the Paul or Nothing show, and had a lot of fun doing that. So that's on I gotta plug them now, I guess, huh? Paul or Nothing on YouTube. No, I'm teasing. Paul or Nothing on YouTube, and you can see the video there. And I know Joe is going to be on here pretty soon as well.
Yeah, Sam. When is my Macca in the Attic show going to be
on? I'm supposed to be on there soon too.
Exactly. I recorded it a while ago, but I know it takes a while for it to be posted.
Yeah, so he's doing
Yeah.
one every week. I think that's how he's doing it. Yeah, so you can reach us at twolegspodcast@gmail.com, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Two Legs Podcast. So yeah, Andy and I were busier than ever, and we got a lot of great shows in the future. And can't wait to see it. Thank you for all the new subscribers, all the new fans, all the old people that have been with us for the last 5-6 years, however long it's been. I can't
Wow.
just really believe it. But Ken Michaels, go ahead and tell your story.
Well, speaking of Sam Wiles, I just recorded 2 shows with him on Off the
Right.
Ground.
Mm.
One was on
Wow.
side 1, the other was on side 2, and we haven't even gotten to the bonus material yet.
Oh, God.
The thing about Sam is he told me he's got a lot of shows in the can, so I don't know when these 2 shows are going to come out, but
Right.
that was a lot of fun. And I hope we do finish it up with all those bonus tracks from Off the
Mhm.
Ground, because some of those are just outstanding. And I
Exactly.
also want to add, as someone who, as you know, is not really, I don't think of myself as a memorabilia person or a collector. I do want those gnomes. It's a rare exception right there.
Right.
Join the club.
I'd love to put them on my lawn, but then I'd be afraid they'd get stolen. So.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mm.
Anyway, on my YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio, I just did a brand new interview with Alan White, who for almost 50 years has been the drummer for one of the greatest bands in rock,
Yeah.
the progressive rock band Yes. And the reason why I interviewed him was because he's one of the drummers on All Things Must Pass. So most of our conversation was about his memories of recording that album. We did a little bit towards the end with him talking about John Lennon, because with John, first he was at the Lyceum Ballroom in December of '69 for their benefit for UNICEF, at a band with George Harrison in it and Delaney and Bonnie, and that's where you got the Cold Turkey recording. That's on Sometime in New York City. And he also played on the single for Instant Karma, and also on the Imagine album. So he did a little bit of talking about John, but it was primarily about George. He was kind of pressed for time. He told me he wanted 30, 35 minutes, and we're already getting close to 50 minutes. So I didn't want to keep going on too long. But, and we also talked about the plans for Yes, who have a brand new album coming out October 1st.
Thank you for asking about Bobby Whitlock.
Well, it's an interesting thing what's going
Nice.
on, which we haven't really talked about here
No.
on the show. But
Next show.
Next show.
all right,
Next show.
okay, okay, all right. I see why you're saying that. Okay,
Right.
okay. So yeah, that's on Ken Michaels Radio. If you can, please subscribe. I've got a whole bunch of new subscribers in the last month or so. Thank you so much for joining, and tell everyone you know about the YouTube channel. On my website, kenmichaelsradio.com, I have 2 brand new prizes to give away
Oh, cool.
as part of my weekly Beatles trivia. One of which is this book right here, All Things Must Pass Away, from Ken Womack and Jason Krupa, all about the careers of Eric Clapton and George Harrison. And really, I never really connected both albums, All Things Must Pass and Layla, together, although they were like a month apart when they were released. But yeah, we're going to have those 2 as our guests on our show here. So you can win this as one of 10 prizes on my website every single week with my Beatles trivia. And also, I got several copies to give away of Ram On, the brand new tribute for Ram on CD. I'm actually going to be doing something very soon, probably this week, where I'm giving away a copy on CD of Ram On my YouTube channel first, with a special contest there. And then there's going to be several ways to win it on my website, actually through a special contest where I'm going to give away Ram On and Ram together in a special contest,
Ooh.
the special edition. That's going to be coming soon too.
Excellent.
And plus, there's also the CDs of Ram On just for the Beatles trivia page. All right. Let's see, things we said today. We just did a show on McCartney 321. So you can hear me say some of the same things in that show, but
That's why that's why they mentioned my video. I know Tom and Ken mentioned that I did a video on 321, but I figured you had enough of me with that, so I didn't mention it.
No, but it's, we all say different things in both shows anyway.
Yes,
and we're all
yes,
bouncing off each other. And then finally,
Yes.
there's my syndicated Beatles show, Every Little Thing, There's a brand new show that's premiering this week in which I do a special tribute to the concert for Bangladesh, which, as we speak, is about to approach its 50th anniversary at
Wow.
Madison Square Garden. So if you go to my website, kenmichaelsradio.com, there is a page for all the radio stations that broadcast the show live, so you can hook up with their stream. And the stations that have an asterisk next to it are the stations that play my newest shows. Not all of them do. You can listen to all the stations on most weeks and get different shows on all of them. But when I have a new one that comes out, there's about 12 of them that run the new one. And this one has something for the concert for Bangladesh. So check that out at kenmichaelsradio.com. And I do believe that is everything.
Wow. Amazing. Hardest working man in podcasting right there. Ken Michael.
There you go.
The James Brown of podcasting.
James Brown
That's
of
right.
podcasting. Absolutely. Everybody out there, thank you so much again for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. Kit will have this up and on the audio and the video formats in a day or two. So if you weren't able to catch us tonight, hopefully you can catch us in the future. We really appreciate all your feedback, all your comments, all your emails. And like Kit said live earlier today, you know, if we don't get to your comments during the live stream, we will go back. We do look at the comments. And from time to time, we will respond to them as well. So thank you once again. And man, another show in the books, guys. Thank you again for being here. And for Kit O'Toole, the Queen, Joe Mayo, Ken Michaels, I'm Tom Hunyadi saying the other side of Liverpool is cold and damp. Only way out of there, drums, guitar, and amp. So long, everyone.
Peace and love.
Yep.